And we're back. We are back. We are back for another episode of the Vision Quest podcast. We are gathered here today. It almost sounds like church, right? We're gathered here today. And for all those who went to church on Easter, this is not church. We are here for another episode with a very special guest, Pat Lugo of the Iowa Hawkeye Wrestling Club, formerly Iowa Hawkeyes. Appreciate you joining us, man. How you feeling today?
Feeling good. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Not a problem. You and I kind of talked a little bit before this, and everybody kind of knows the premise. So I know you got to practice to get ready for. So
Yeah.
let's just cut to the chase, man. Let's talk. Liam and I have watched you since you got to Iowa, man. We've loved watching you. Everybody is no stranger to us. We're Iowa fans, so anytime Iowa does something bad, hey, what's up? What are the Hawkeyes doing? Whatever, dude. Just zip it. So we're here to have fun. We're here to have fun and kind of have Pat tell us your story. So as we go through here, we're going to ask questions, like I said, Pat, and we'll kind of a flow, things like that. But this is gonna be from beginning to end. So let's start off from the beginning. What kind of things do you remember? The first kind of sports and things that you started out doing? Was it wrestling or was it something else that you kind of got the athletic feel?
So I definitely remember wrestling first. I grew up doing other sports like football and soccer. The earliest memory I could have for wrestling was getting my first pair of wrestling shoes.
Nice.
I remember my dad gave them to me, and he told me that they're gonna make me faster and stronger. So I was like, oh heck yeah! And my first thought was like, now I'm gonna be faster and stronger than my older brother. So then once I realized that he had the same shoes on as me, I was like, oh man. So that's kind of like the funny story I remember when growing up. But
That's cool.
I always wrestled. I started when I was 4 years old. Like I said, I did other sports. I did soccer and football. My dad was also my wrestling coach and football coach. So
Wow.
I kind of went back and forth with that. We would go to wrestling practice and then right after go to football practice. And yeah, he was my coach for both. But we kind of like always, knew that wrestling was gonna be, the main sport eventually. I did these other sports just because, my friends at the time were involved with soccer.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of the reason why I did all these other sports. But it was fun. I loved it.
Yeah. So with that being said, you're in the other sports, but you said you kind of knew that you were going to be in wrestling already. Was your dad a wrestler? Did he wrestle?
So he wrestled for like 3 to 4 years, like in middle school and high school.
Okay.
He didn't wrestle. He didn't go to college for wrestling or anything like that.
Oh,
But his close friend, which was my youth club coach, he went to college for wrestling.
oh. Who's
He
that?
His name's Roberto Reina, Coach Duck.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's
Nice.
many people know him as Coach Duck. He went to I believe Wabanzi. I think I could be wrong.
Okay.
I forgot what college he went to, but after college, he became my youth coach, my youth club
Okay.
coach. There wasn't that much wrestling at the time. I mean, probably zero clubs at the time for wrestling in the state of Florida, like especially down south. And we're kind of the ones that kind of picked it up, and it's growing now. It's
Yeah.
to look back at it and then like see how much it grew and
Yeah.
how much it's still growing. It's pretty cool.
We got Mako down there now too, kind of,
Yeah,
throwing things in the mix too. When he
yeah.
picked Florida, I was kind of like, what is he going to Florida for? But at the same time, I mean, he wasn't just doing wrestling. I mean, he was in the fight thing too at the same time. So,
Yeah.
with it being so small down there, I mean, were you guys wrestling like out of garages, like tiny little buildings? Like, I've been down to Florida. I've seen a couple of things. I don't know all of Florida though. Just kind of interested to see what was that environment like? Just kind of a gritty, kind of
Yeah.
no hold hard type environment.
So yeah, I mean, I remember us first starting off at like this karate gym, and it didn't really work out with that. So we kind of went our own route, and we got this like old warehouse. It used to be like a welding warehouse, and it
I
was
knew it.
yeah, it was just like literally like four walls, and that's all we needed.
It's like a Van Damme movie.
Yeah, exactly. It was hot in there, man. It was so hot. It
It's
was
already hot down there in the first place.
yeah,
You guys probably had lizards running through the building and stuff. And
Yeah, it just we kind of just put wrestling mats on the ground and wrestling mats are on the wall, and that's pretty much it.
Just
Uh,
let it rip.
they made like a whole homemade gym outside, and it was just like
Man, that's
it was
awesome.
it was pretty unique, you know, at the time. You know, I was just like, all right,
Yeah.
you know, and it kind of took off there.
Okay. Okay. So you obviously you had some other sports in the mix, and did you find even as a kid, like with the wrestling, and then as you're playing those other sports at the same time, did you find that you were a little bit better at those other sports than the other kids while you were in wrestling? You kind of excelled a little more.
For sure, football. Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
football. I mean, at the time, I enjoyed football more. It
Mhm.
was fun to me, a lot more than wrestling. I wouldn't say it's like I tell people all the time. I liked wrestling growing up, but I really fell in love with it when I got to high school, like sophomore year.
Okay.
These other sports I did, they were like just a little more fun, you know, like
Yeah.
football. So I guess I had a little more success.
Sure.
It was easier to like compete and have fun in these other sports because they're team sports, you know.
Right.
You know, you have a team, you score a goal, you celebrate with your team, whatever.
Yeah.
Wrestling, you're by yourself out there, and it's harder to you know, win. You
Yeah.
know, it's harder to, I guess, have fun, you know, because you're winning, you have fun. So
Yeah.
when I was younger, it was took some time to like, you know, fall in love with the sport, but
Yeah.
I'm glad that my dad pushed me. I'm happy, you know, because at the time I didn't know. I was a young kid, you know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I'm really, you know, grateful for him.
Let's talk about ass kickings for a minute. Let's talk about, you little, and like you said, you don't know, you're still learning sports, and just all of them in general. As you're wrestling and things like that, because you guys came from such a, I would say, isolated wrestling community where I don't know obviously the internet's around, so it's not like you guys are blind to everything, but were you guys going to, and I always ask everybody this, like going to like a national tournament, or were there hard tournaments that were close by you guys that you traveled to those? Like, tell me about the first kind of like really high level type competition you went to.
So we used to go to a few national tournaments growing up.
Okay.
We had to raise money to go over there. There was times that
Okay.
we'll drive from Florida all the way from Miami to Tulsa Nationals, and it was a long drive. Cutting weight on the way up there wasn't fun, and you know, I would go. I didn't have much success growing up. My little brother had a lot more success than me. He actually won a few Tulsa national tournaments, and I would go out there and go 1-2 or 0-2, and it was just like, man, I came all this way, and my dad would be pissed. Like, yeah, but it was definitely a struggle, you know, starting off, and as I got older, you know, I just learned that, you know, if I work harder, you
Yeah.
know, myself, you know, I'll, you know, have more success. But yeah, it was definitely like harder in the beginning for me. I found more success in high school, and you know, so on in
Okay.
college. But
So
yeah,
you talk about siblings. You got an older brother and a younger brother. How many siblings do you have?
so I have three siblings, younger brother, older brother, and then my sister. She's the oldest out of all of us. So yeah.
Oh man, so she was your protector,
Yeah,
right?
I guess. Yeah, we used to wrestle like in the living room and stuff, so it was pretty funny.
That's awesome. So, I talk about, being an Iowa fan. Obviously, we know Tom and Terry wrestle with each other all the time and things like that. So, but did you guys find an advantage of having each other as siblings in the same sport, being able to work with each other? Or were you guys just so different in size that you couldn't, it didn't work out? It was just kind of like play wrestling. Or did you have a practice partner as a sibling?
No, I didn't
You
because,
didn't.
well, because my older brother was a lot bigger than us, but
Okay.
my younger brother, we were kind of the same size,
Mhm.
but we would fight so much. Like we didn't even wrestle. Like we weren't even learning. We would just, you know, fight. So we were always separated. Exactly. Yeah, we never really, you know, drilled with each other or like wrestled live. We were always different groups, but
Okay.
we were more on the mental side. Like, hey man, like you got this, you know, like
Okay.
ready for this match, you know. But we were never like partners.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I get it. I get it. Totally get it. So as you guys are growing up, you kind of had each other, and as far as you guys are pretty tight knit family. I mean, every duel that we've watched or gone to, we saw your dad there. Like, I mean, big giant arms ripped dad
Yeah.
bulking. So when you're talking about he was your football coach and wrestling coach, like I could tell you hit the weight room with you guys too, man. Because that I was just watching the match against Sasso, and your dad was in the crowd, and I think Jim Gibbons made a comment about the size of your dad's arms too.
Yeah.
But with kind of growing up in such a tight knit group and having a tight family like that, what was your support system like? Kind of, mom, dad. You just talked about your brothers, kind of like on the mental side, kind of telling you got this kind of thing. How did that go? Did you guys find like a great dynamic that just worked for your family? Obviously, almost everybody does, but tell us what it was like for you with the family dynamic you had.
So my dad was hard on us, but he was
Okay.
hard on us because he loved us, and he made sure that he would tell us that. And as I look back at it, I can remember him saying, "You don't understand now, but one day you'll thank me." And I really, really understand now. Like at the moment, I didn't. Like why is he making me work out? Like why is he making me do this stuff? And I was kind of pissed off at the moment, but I'm thankful for him now. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of guidance I've had from my parents. I feel truly blessed. It's I feel like I have parents that like any kid would would die for, and I say that humbly. And it's like I said, he was hard on us, and a lot of people will probably say, like, looking like at our family and say, "Hey, like you need to relax," like on your kids, like to my dad.
Yeah.
But my dad would like, it was all out of love. So like, I
Yeah.
understood it, like
Yeah.
it wasn't really a punishment. It was more like I'm gonna make you suffer, but just to help you,
Yeah.
and and that's just it's kind of like what I go through now in the Iowa wrestling room. And that stuff right there is kind of like similar to how I grew up with. I think that's why I clicked so well with Tom and Terry. It's
Yeah.
kind of reminds me of my upbringings and my childhood. You want something, you got to earn it. You can't, nothing's given to you.
And that's a familiar sound, especially in our house. I mean, there's a lot of things that we talk about that we did here, but I remember because I listened to the guys that that were coming up that had been in college. Like, I don't want to push my kid too much, so I took a little bit of that. But I also grew up in an environment where I the things that my son Liam has now, I didn't have those opportunities. So I had to create my own opportunities. I had to make sure that everything I was doing is to the best of my ability. And you can't do that by sitting around and doing nothing, right? You can't. That's not how you earn anything. So I mean, he was at 9, 10 years old, and we knew what his goals were. And I wasn't like Kerry Colod's dad with like a cattle prod or nothing like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
But you know, but I thought about it. But I had him down in the basement with the workout machine at 9, 10 years old. Just to I had no regimen for him. I was like, just go down and work out. 5 o'clock in the morning. Just go down and work out. I don't care what you do, push ups, sit ups. Hey, go on the air dyne. I don't care, but just work out. It wasn't about what he did. It was about that he was getting in the right frame of mind that this is what I got to do. And it was, I can remember days where my wife told me, is like, he is not happy with you today. I was like, I get it, but
yeah,
this is part of it. So it's interesting. And it's good to hear that I'm not the only one that made my kid do that stuff. So it's,
yeah, for sure.
but so as you're kind of going through, you're talking about high school is kind of where you really started to fall in love with it. What was middle school wrestling like for you guys in Florida? Since I guess the pack was so small when it came to wrestling, what was that like for you?
Yeah. So again, my dad was my middle school coach.
Yeah,
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 we we wrestled at a few tournaments here and there, but it was more like we didn't really like go wrestle for our middle school. It was more for like our club when I was
okay,
in middle school. So we would travel for that, and I did have a middle school team my 7th and 8th grade year, and the counties. That's what the tournament was called, county tournament.
hmm,
For school. But yeah, we I did that. It was growing at the time. Not a lot of kids, not a lot of food teams. Not a lot of teams had food roster,
sure,
but yeah, it was good. It was not the competition wasn't as tough. That's why I would travel more with the club.
yeah,
At that time, I was more already like pretty much saying, yeah, I'm gonna go to college. I'm gonna go to high school to wrestle. I wasn't gonna be a football player. I wasn't gonna be a soccer player or anything like that.
yeah,
I was strictly already. Once I got to high school, I was strictly wrestling.
okay, okay.
So
So middle school, a little bit of a breeze, kind of one of those things, just because again, I know the demographic wasn't, like I said, wasn't the hugest at the time, but as you're getting into high school, what is the talk? I mean, are you in your freshman year? What was your biggest match your freshman year?
Freshman year, I just remember cutting a lot of weight.
Oof.
I, I cut a lot of weight the bad way. I didn't have the right information. I feel like
Sure.
that's not a knock on my coaches at the time, or my parents, because I just think like I'm still learning about nutrition like today. So it's like I think nutrition is something that we're not taught, especially in like our education system.
Yeah.
Gotta like really go out there and search for it. But so yeah, my weight was bad my freshman year. I was kind of my biggest enemy. I was top 3 in the state, top 5 in the state the whole year. I ended up not placing at the state tournament just because I was like cutting weight so bad. Like I did not enjoy that process throughout my
So
freshman.
what were you walking around at? What were you cutting to?
I was cutting to 106, and I was walking around like 120. So,
Damn.
and I did it terrible. Like I would eat so bad.
Yeah.
It was just like I was just like working out to make weight. I wasn't working out to get better, and it was just like I
Yeah.
became a weight cutter instead of a wrestler. You know what I mean? It's like
Sure.
there's just
Sucks.
yeah, just bad. Like the freshman year, I was just like, this is not
Yeah.
fun.
This is done. Yeah.
But
So
things,
soft.
you
What's
know,
that?
but things changed quickly my sophomore year. So yeah,
Okay. Okay. Let's talk about that. You didn't place your freshman year. I mean, Liam didn't have his freshman year that he wanted either, but learning curves, right? Were you
yes,
guys kind of, did you, I don't know, did you somewhere along the line going into your sophomore year, were you finding out a little bit more about nutrition?
yes,
A
yes, or no.
little,
Yeah, a
tiny?
little bit here and there. Honestly, the best thing was just me going up a weight. I went from 106 to 132 in freshman and sophomore year. So I was just,
Wow.
and I weighted like 145 at the time. So I was still cutting weight. I
Woo,
think
man.
after I think cutting weight so bad, like after the season was over my freshman year, I was just like, I'm getting heavy. I don't care.
Yeah, right.
So, but that helped me. It's like and then I stopped worrying about cutting weight. I stopped. I just started eating a little healthier. Stop eating certain things, and it helped my wrestling, helped my mind a lot. And I went 132, and I had a tough weight class. I had a bunch of seniors at my weight class at the time. So my senior year was definitely a big step. I mean, my sophomore year, my
Yeah.
sophomore definitely a big step for me.
Did
Yeah.
you did you find yourself I guess leveling up because of that now? Like because you said it was a big year. Were you getting better practice partners as well? Were you finding yourself being able to spread out a little bit more with who you had in front of you, kind of thing?
I think I think my mindset just changed. I had the same
Okay.
my mindset just changed. Like I said, I wasn't worried about cutting weight. I was worried about working hard. Um, I went to Fargo that summer after my freshman year, and I ended up getting second. And then I realized like like I don't have to cut weight, and I just work hard and believe in myself. And then what else can I do? So it kind of took off from there. I went to my sophomore year in high school.
Mhm.
I got third, and I still didn't get what I wanted, but it's fine. I was like, I had a tough bracket, blah blah blah. It's fine. Just
Yeah.
keep working hard, keep doing what you're doing, and you'll find success in the future.
What you talked about mindset, kind of your mentality kind of changed. What do you think brought about? I mean, obviously your freshman year was rough, but what got you to that point? What type of things were you doing to change your mental, mindset and everything like that?
I think a lot of it was just getting the distractions out of my life.
Okay.
Kind of helped me clear my path. Like what's really important here. You
Mhm.
know, what do you really want to do? With your life. And I think once I've got like those bad apples,
Yeah.
out of the way, and it kind of just made sense to me. It just clicked.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to explain it. It was more of a feeling, just like you work hard, you stay tough, you stay in there, you'll find success. And
Yeah.
and I just felt like the need to work hard was a must. I it was kind of like my drug. It's like work
Okay.
hard. It's like it made me feel good. If I go into and I started making goals for myself. Like even at practice was like I'm gonna like work out hard, like so hard today. I'm gonna try to break, this guy, whoever I'm with, or I'm just gonna see what happens. Like I remember walking into practice, was like just see what happens if you just work hard for the next 2 hours. Like let's see what happens. Like let's see. Like I was just excited. It was like exciting to me. It was like I was curious. Like would you pass out? Like would you throw up? Or like would you keep going? Like what
Wow.
happened? Like I just wanted to find out. And I always had this satisfaction feeling after practice. Was like, man, you worked hard today. Now you can rest. It's like
Most kids aren't willing to do that shit, like most kids don't know what it's like to find that dark place,
that.
to put themselves in that dark place, I should say, where in a match, someone's going to put them there and then they don't know what to do. Whereas you're starting to put yourself there, like, all right, let's see. Wait, I want to see how far I go before I pass out, throw up,
Yeah.
fall over, whatever it is. And that's pretty impressive to be able to kind of, and yet obviously we know you had your dad alongside you to kind of help you with, but I mean, obviously you guys probably talked about certain things and in whatever mental state you were in. And so as your sophomore year, kind of came to a close, everybody wants to be a state champion, right? I mean, you want to wind up on top in your state, but what kind of goals did you set for yourself going into your junior year? There was Fargo, things like that, but what type of like little goals were you setting for yourself to, I want to at least, place here, or I want to, because winning aside, I mean, realistically, when you know where you're at, I want to win it, but I'd be good if I did this, kind of thing. Were you placing yourself in those positions, or was it just something that you were just like, nope, I'm just going? You didn't care where you're going, how you're going. Is that kind of where you went into your junior year then?
So I definitely set a goal besides winning. One of the goals I had was not get taken down
Oh,
for my
okay.
team, my junior and senior year, and I end up accomplishing that goal. So that was good. I remember, and then I ended up taking it a step further. Was like, all right, let's not get taken down in practice for the next 2 years. And then I was like, that ended like the first 2 weeks, but it was fine. I think setting these goals, even if you don't accomplish them, is the journey that matters.
Sure.
You-
Correct.
Even if you don't accomplish this goal, that's fine. You learned so much, you grew so much as a person, as a wrestler, or whatever. So it's like I gotten better. Even though I didn't accomplish what I want to accomplish freshman year, it helped me for my sophomore year.
Yeah.
So on and so on. So yeah, it was. I definitely another goal I made was to win Super 32, and I remember at the time me telling my friend I'm gonna win Super 32, and then he laughed, and I was like, all right, that means like this goal is a good goal to have, because if they're laughing at your goals, then that's a good thing. You know,
Yeah.
they don't think that you can accomplish it, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna prove you know
That's
you
right.
wrong, whatever. So yeah.
That's right. No, let's talk about, because around June 15th, 16th, colleges can start making phone calls and contacting guys. Were you getting any after your sophomore year?
No, I didn't really get contacted by colleges until my senior year.
Okay. Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that because I want to see if there's some important stuff that happens in between there. So junior year, mindset changes and you set your goals. How many of the guys that you wound up wrestling from, like, I would say your junior and senior year all the way through college, how many of the guys that you wrestled in high school did you wind up wrestling in college?
When it comes to like the state of Florida, I don't think any.
Okay. Well, how about like when you got to like Super 32s and things like that?
Oh,
How many of those guys?
for sure. I remember Max Thompson.
Okay.
Wrestled times in high school, then in college. Um, I can't remember any at the moment. I think Hayden Hidley. Uh, maybe I remember wrestling him in high school, but I don't think I wrestled him in college. But
Huh.
these guys that are like are pretty well known.
Yeah. Yeah.
Few other guys I can't remember. Oh, Freddie Stroker, uh,
Oh, yeah.
Larry Early, a few other guys. But like what really happens, a lot of guys that I wrestled in high school end up falling off in college, and
Mhm.
guys that wrestle in college didn't really have success in high school, and they kind of like springed in college, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Yep. Okay. Okay. So junior year, did you accomplish any of the things that you set out to?
yeah, I was able to win the state title and
No takedowns.
no takedowns
No
and
takedowns.
Fargo that year. I didn't win Fargo. I think I got like fourth or fifth.
But you all American.
I All American, yeah.
Still
Uh,
impressive. Okay.
And then Super 32, I believe that's when I wrestled Hayden Headley. I think I got third or fourth, I think.
Okay.
So yeah.
Nice. Okay. So as you're going through your junior year, kind of leaning into your senior year, what are your thoughts as a kid as you're going through that transition of, I mean, a lot of kids are becoming men at that stage, where you're kind of having a little bit of a turn from boyhood to getting into manhood a little bit more. What are your thoughts kind of going into wrestling and if you're thinking about college, what are your thoughts? Like, what were you kind of thinking as you're going? Were you trying to contact colleges like, hey, I'd really like to go here? What were you kind of going through into that transition into your senior year?
So yeah, I definitely knew at that time that I wanted to wrestle in college.
Okay.
I didn't really know anything. Like I didn't know how to contact college. I didn't know how to contact coaches. So I kind of let my high school coach at the time like figure it out for me. And he was kind of like the one who helped me with that recruiting process. And we kind of went from there. But it was mainly my senior years when I started talking to colleges. But
Okay.
it was kind of like a problem I had was my grades. And it wasn't necessarily that I wasn't like smart enough for these classes. It's just that I
Right.
didn't show up to class. That's what it was. Yeah, I just didn't go. So
Oh, that's a disease I had too, the show up disease. That's what I had. Yeah.
yeah, so kind of like that's kind of like a problem I had. I was just showing up, but I definitely my coaches, my high school coaches at the time, definitely told me like, "Yo, if you wanna go to college, like you said, well, you have to show up for high
Yeah.
school." So I was like, "All right." So that was pretty convincing to me. Like, okay,
All right, I better do this. That sounds like a plan. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So as you're going into your senior year, hey, did you deal with any injuries in high school?
No, thank goodness. Like,
Right.
I think a lot of it was just my style of wrestling. Like I stayed in a good position, and I didn't really like the funk and stuff like that.
Okay.
So like I feel like a lot of people who funk, they put themselves in danger.
Yeah.
With knees and
Twisting. Yep.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you stay in good position, I think you could save yourself from a lot of injuries.
You're a heavy hand wrestler anyways. You're a wear him down collar tie kind of. I'm gonna pull your face into the mat.
Mm.
Then I'm gonna underhook and probably come in for a single leg. Actually, I kind of so you're yeah, that's right. I didn't really see a whole lot of funk in you when you were wrestling. It was pretty straightforward. I'm going for legs and I'm going for a takedown kind of thing. So that explains a lot. So senior year, what were your goals going into your senior year? Let's talk about that first.
Senior year was pretty much the same as my junior year.
Yeah.
Not get taken down, win the state title, win
Okay.
Fargo, win Super 32. That was
Okay.
my goals. I was able to win the state title. I didn't win Fargo. I got second that year, my senior year, and then Super 32. I got I think third again. I can't remember.
It's a tough tournament, man.
Yeah,
Not
it's
easy.
for sure tough tournament.
You're talking about Hayden Hidleys and stuff like that being in there. You're not dealing with slouches, man.
Exactly. Yeah,
No
we
joke.
were the fourth, something like that.
Okay. Okay. So senior year, as you're going through your high school season, what were some of the highlights from high school wrestling that year?
Definitely like celebrating with my team that we won the state title.
Team wise, you did too.
Say that again.
Team wise, you did too.
Yeah, we won as a team. Yeah,
Nice.
it was
Okay.
good. We actually, my senior year was pretty crazy for my high school. We won it for wrestling, baseball, and football state titles.
Oh shit.
It was we had like a parade and it was pretty cool.
That's awesome, man.
So yeah, that was a good year for that. But yeah,
Liam's team I think their baseball team has won it 3 times. I think they're going for 4. Liam's team just won it 4 times. And I
nice.
think there's another sports team. It's kind of the same thing where they were going for a state championship as well. So that's crazy. That's a fun time, man. As a kid, you guys had everybody's watching you. You guys are probably all over the news and everything.
It was pretty cool. And then we ended up having like a big party at the end of the year. Like all the teams were there, and it
Yeah,
was good time.
that's awesome. That's awesome. So you guys had a great year. And we talked about earlier about this is where the context and stuff started to come a little bit in from for colleges. So who's throwing some information your way saying, hey, we like what we're seeing. Who are you hearing from?
So at the time, I got contact from Iowa State, um, NC State, Edinburgh, Virginia Tech, and a few other schools. I think that was pretty much the other schools were like NAIA and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
you
No
want
slouches, man. I mean, you're getting some good contacts, dude.
for sure.
So it's interesting though, because you only took 2 trips.
Yes.
You went to one place in Arizona called Grand Canyon State, I think it was,
Hmm.
that doesn't even exist anymore. Well, school might be there, but they don't have wrestling, that's for sure. And you went to Edinburgh. Okay. So on your trips, like I just hearing the places that you listed off and then hearing the place that you actually visited to, run me through that. How was the decision making process going on for you as far as what you were showing interest in?
So yeah, so my first visit was Grand Canyon, and it was good visit, good coaching staff, but I didn't see myself there because they didn't really have a foundation built yet, like base. So I was like, I'll take the visit. I definitely wanted to like go on all 5 of my visits at the time. I didn't obviously, because I just hate to travel. I think that's I like going places, but like getting on the plane, coming on, blah blah blah, waiting in line. I'm like, what?
Hotel room and all this shit.
Like, this sucks. But the places were cool. The coaches were cool. When I got to Edinburgh, good. It was like I didn't go to college to like
Go to college.
yeah, go to college exactly. I went to college to wrestle.
Yeah, you ain't the only one, man. I mean, we just listened to that. What was that? Starachi, I think that was saying that too. He's like, they asked if he's going to use his Europe. He's like, I don't like classes, man.
Yeah, like I know exactly what he means too. It's like I didn't go here to learn, whatever.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But
Don't listen. Don't take that advice, kids. Go to school and
yeah,
learn, man.
go to school.
That's
But
cool.
yeah, so like when I went on Edinburgh's visit, I mean, it felt right to me. At the time they just got third at nationals the past year. They had a good lineup, like guys around my weight: Mitchell Port, Dave Habit, AJ Shop. These guys were hammers.
Yep.
Um, and they didn't stay. The only one who stayed was Mitchell Port. But like I was telling myself that this coaching staff can get these athletes around my weight
Hmm.
to be contenders, then why can't they do it with me?
Was
You know?
that Flynn? Was Flynn there as a
Yeah,
coach? Yeah.
coach. Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
was that the head throw? Was that head throw academy or something like that?
Flow, right? Yeah, I remember that. That was, and at the time too was they had their little documentary that came out too, and it was pretty cool. I was a senior, and then Flo just put the documentary out, and I was like, oh, this makes me want to go there even more.
Yeah, yeah. Because they showed that weight room they had. I mean, it was
Yeah,
like in a boiler room or something, some kind of crazy setup they had.
yeah.
But they made it work, man.
I loved it. And it reminded me of like how I worked out, in Florida, and that's all like what I had. I remember I
Yeah.
by the gladiator of my wrestling club, 4 walls, and it felt right.
Old weld shop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it felt like I just felt like I was a little bit at home when it came to the workouts.
Nice. Okay. All right. So your senior year, you got to look at things. You kind of. I'm sure once. I mean, if you meet a staff like that, especially with Flynn, I mean, I'd be sold pretty quick too,
Hmm.
because you talked about a foundation, and those guys, they build foundations as soon as they get somewhere. So I mean, you're walking into a pretty solid room. You just mentioned shop. I mean, that guy was the riding king of NCAA's for when he was in college, and Liam's learned a lot of lessons from him too. But so now your senior year was great. You guys had fun. You picked a college. Now you're off to college. How what was your plan since we talk about academics? What was your plan going into college? Were you like, I'm going to take a cooking class? I'm going to take this. So what were you kind of thinking when you got to school? Was it a little harder than you really wanted it to be?
So I was kind of like on my so first of all, my major at the time was special ed and
Okay.
history, And I think the reason why I did that because that's what my high school coaches were, and I was just like, all right, yeah, sure. I didn't really know, you know what I mean? So I was just like, sure, I'll do this. Again, I care to wrestle. I don't care about but that changed when I went to Iowa, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. So, because I know that you wound up, I mean, obviously, you guys had a decent competition schedule. But what were in season, not the postseason? What was kind of like the hardest part of the regular season for you? Was it still the weight thing, or had you kind of figured that out already at that point?
No, I definitely figured it out. The coaches at the time, I think the workouts were just more intense, so that kind of helped my weight out. I was learning from a heavier weight that was on the team. His name is Vic Avery.
Okay.
Uh, he really helped me a lot when it came to nutrition, and Mitchell Port too. These guys they tell me what to eat, when to eat it, and how much to eat. Because at the time it was 1 hour 1 hour weigh-ins for do meets and tournaments, and it's like you can't eat too much because your stomach's small, blah blah blah. And
Yep.
that's something I didn't know in high school. I would just stuff my face right after weigh-ins, and that's not the case. That's not what you do, but
Doesn't
it
work.
doesn't work exactly. So it helped me a lot when it came to my weight.
Okay. Okay. So you had that kind of figured out. And then what was, I guess, because I've never, I guess I can't say I've ever watched like Edinburgh's schedule. What was the toughest match you had your freshman year?
Freshman year, I would say I probably at the NCAA tournament, but
Sorensen?
who?
Sorensen?
No, that was my sophomore year.
Oh, was it? Okay. Okay.
So my freshman year, I think Zane Rutherford was definitely my toughest match as an NCAA tournament. But we had a good like do meet schedule.
Yeah.
I can't remember at the time like who we wrestled for do meets. It was a lot of like Clarion, Lockhaven,
That's right. Yeah. Yep.
uh,
Okay.
BJ
Remember that.
Ryder. He was a good opponent.
BJ who?
BJ Clagan.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, from
Nice.
Ryder.
So you got the NCAAs your freshman year. You didn't redshirt?
No, I didn't redshirt. I was
Damn.
right. Yeah, and then that was like I didn't want a redshirt. Honestly, my Coach Flynn asked me, "Do you want a redshirt?" I said no. I was like, no, I want to go right now. Like this is why I'm here. So
Did you find that because you talked about the workouts and stuff, and obviously your dad was your coach, but I guess I don't ask this a whole lot. Did you find that when you got into the workout room itself? Because I mean, when I played soccer, and I played soccer for a long time, when we played soccer, we didn't touch a ball for 2 weeks.
hmm.
Like we ran and we ran and then we ran and then we ran some more. What did you find that transition from a high school room workout to the college workout? Did you have a hard time keeping up?
I would say in the beginning, like preseason workouts, yes, because of the running, like you're
Mhm.
saying, I hate running. I remember like me being with the heavyweights, like when I was running. We're going like 3-4 mile runs, and I'll get back to where we finish, and
Yeah.
and then Mitchell Port was like, look who you're around. And I was like, I look around, I was around the heavyweight, and I was like, he's like, you gotta pick it up. And I was like, you're right, but then I was like, my body is like, holy. So the running, we definitely ran a lot, more than I expected. So I had to adjust to that, and I think I did a really good job at that my second year because I was
Okay.
more prepared. I knew what to expect, and that kind of helped me. So yeah,
So let's talk about that second year because this is kind of where the transition into leaving is, I believe, your sophomore year, isn't it?
yes.
Okay. So what going into your sophomore year, you obviously have goals and your team has goals and your coaches probably have some goals for you as well. But what was your mindset and your goals specifically going into your sophomore year? What were you trying to accomplish?
So my sophomore year, I felt like it was like my senior year. I was
Mm,
more like right on, like strict. I was focused that my sophomore year. My goal is to be a national champ. I would I did everything to the T in my sophomore year. When it comes to watching film, my diet, my preparation before a match, my cool down after a match. I was a professional my sophomore year,
okay.
and it didn't work out the way I wanted to, and and it hurt me, but I learned a lot. So that's the year I was able to wrestle, these high caliber guys like Brandon Sorensen and Anthony Colica and these other guys. I believe my sophomore year I was a contender to win it. So I believed in myself, and I was just full head of steam, and it was a great year. I learned a lot, even though I didn't accomplish my goal. It doesn't really matter because I grew so much,
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
You got to be able to take something away. I mean, there's always something to be able to take away from something. So
exactly.
as far as the goals weren't reached, were you talking about just getting the NCAAs? Like, was it what was your ultimate goal?
My only goal was to win a national title. I
Okay.
wasn't to beat anyone specifically. It wasn't to make it to the NCAAs. No, I want to win.
Okay.
I'm here. So.
Yep.
So yeah, anything less would be like disrespect towards myself.
Sure. And the energy and time you put into your craft.
Exactly.
Okay. So things didn't pan out in your sophomore year. So what were your thoughts? I mean, what were you deciding? I mean, this had to have been something that was going through your head at least halfway through the season.
Mm-hmm.
What at what point were you like, I think I need a change. I need a change of environment. I'm doing this. Was it something that I'm doing this and I don't feel like this program's going to get me there, or you just feel like maybe this is the wrong environment? Like, what were your thoughts going through your head as that process started to kind of roll and started to take a shape?
So I never blamed my coaching staff. I never blamed my environment for my success. It was
Okay.
always all on me.
Mhm.
And so how this process went down was I found out that my head coach at the time was looking for another job, and he was looking for another job. So I told myself, I actually called my dad and told him, and then I told him, well, if he wants a better opportunity for his family, I respect that. I also want a better opportunity for me, So that's kind of the way I told him, and I sat with him and the rest of the coaching staff, and it was a hard meeting, and I remember like my back sweating during the whole meeting. It was
It's
just.
gotta be nerve wracking, man. Yeah.
Exactly. So like it was definitely a hard time, for me, especially as like a young, college athlete. It's like, what am I doing? Like I honestly wanted to stay, but then I had people really, really close to me trying to push me to, find other options. Like Iowa, Oklahoma State, Penn State, Ohio State, these other schools, you know, my dad was really someone who like convinced me to like take these visits because I feel like I'm a loyal person, and like these other schools weren't looking at me coming out of high school. The schools that were looking at me were Edinburgh, obviously, and I
Mhm.
want to stay here with this team, but I just didn't see the bigger picture, at the time, and I'm glad that my dad, convinced me to, take a visit here or whatever, because like I'm I'm obviously I feel like I made the right decision, to transfer.
Oh, well, we definitely think so. We thought because so it was kind of weird when we had season tickets to go watch Hawkeyes, right? And we kind of heard some news about a new guy coming in. And we're like, oh, what the hell is going on? Who's this new guy? And we had no clue. When we're pretty close to the Cassiopes. We travel quite a bit with those guys doing dual teams, things like that. And they kind of wound up kind of squeaking out a little bit of like what was going on. And I was like, oh, really? So we looked you up, and I was like, man, I don't remember seeing this guy anywhere. I was like, who's this Pat Lugo dude?
Mm.
So we got exposed to you, and the way Liam wrestled at the time, he's a little different now, but the way he wrestled at the time was a lot like how you wrestle. I mean, very heavy handed, very physical wrestling, very straightforward because he was young yet. He wasn't into funk and everything else like that. So he was still straightforward. So we got really excited when we saw you wrestling. We found out you were coming to Iowa, but what was the process like? Because this is a whole different thing that some of these high school guys don't know about.
Mm.
When you're obviously it was just a thought. You're like, hey, I'm gonna check out my options. Were you making phone calls? Were you emailing coaches? Like, how was that process for you to try to find that next place for yourself?
So it was hard because like you said, the rules were different back then. There was no transfer portal. There was nothing. So what I had to do was I had to meet with my coaching staff and the athletic director, and to get permission to speak to these other colleges, just coach, whatever. Um, they first denied my permission to speak, so I wasn't even allowed to, contact these other schools. But as this process went on with me and the University of Edinburgh University, I ended up getting a lawyer at the time to help me fight what was going on, whatever. The lawyer, a really good friend of mine, gave me a letter to send to the university, pretty much saying that, look, you guys broke a few rules, NCAA rules, that like if you don't give us permission to speak, we're gonna take this to court, blah blah blah. So the next day I was granted permission to speak. So it was
Loopholes, man.
yeah, it was like wow, like this is like happening,
And
so
that's what attorneys are for, to find those little things out to kind of help. I mean, because were you on scholarship too?
yes, I
So
was.
that's, I mean, that's a whole other situation. That's a different type of gig. And I always talk about this with a lot of guys, because you guys are going into college. You guys are 17, 18. And you're making an adult decision
Yeah,
for the next 4 years of your life. And I'll be honest, there's a lot of contracts I never read and just signed, right? And how many people are going to pull up, get your scholarship contract, whatever it is, and you're just going to be like, okay, cool. And you're just going to sign and date it, right? Whereas if I could tell every kid and every parent right now, before you sign anything, have an attorney look at it, make sure it looks right, make sure it's asking everything. It's not to say that yours was bad, but look at it. Make sure you know what you're doing, because obviously yours were able to find some loopholes to help get you going and doing the things that you wanted to do. So obviously, I'm pretty sure Flynn didn't have too much of a problem, right? Because he wasn't going to be hanging out anyways. It's like, hell yeah, let this kid do what he wants to do to be successful.
yeah.
So when you finally got that, who are you throwing some info out to right away, saying, hey, I'm looking to go?
So I spoke to Iowa,
Mhm.
Oklahoma State, Penn State, Ohio State, and a few other schools reached out to me, like Iowa State. Kind of like the same schools that like were reaching out to me when I was in high school, NC State. But I knew at the time I wanted to go to Iowa, Penn State, or Ohio State.
Okay.
Those were the choices.
Okay.
So
Well, it's Big Ten. I mean, you get Oklahoma State's Big 12, which not nothing to slouch at, but I already kind of see where your path is and what you're looking to do. So you're looking to go into a pretty big conference. So let's talk about your I always call it run-ins. Let's talk about your run-in with the Brands brothers. How did that go when you met up with those guys?
so I flew into Iowa, went on my visit, and
Yeah.
the memory that pops up in my head right now is we met at a breakfast restaurant, Bluebird, and
Sounds brandsy. Sounds
yeah,
very brandsy.
we met there, and it's funny because like I at the time I couldn't tell the difference between Tom and Terry, so
Who can?
I was like who am I speaking to? Like I don't know. I didn't want to like ask, So there was a table there. The whole coaching staff was there. The weight training coach, the trainer, Morningstar was there, whatever. They're all there, and there was just one. There was two seats open, one for me and one for my dad. And then we sat there, and I'm the type of person, especially at the time I was younger. I didn't speak much. Like I only spoke if someone's asking me a question or something. So I was quiet the whole time. I kind of like wanted to read the room, before like I show my own cards
I feel you. Yeah.
for sure. So I think I didn't realize that Terry was behind me because he was at the bar, like sitting at the bar, and that we were at a table, and
Oh.
I was wondering like where's the other one at? I was like, who is this? Tom or Terry? It was kind of funny. And then whatever we're talking, and then whatever someone speaks behind me, I look behind me and it's Terry. I was like, I didn't know he was there.
Sneak attack shit. What's
Yeah.
going on?
But it was a good visit. That's the one memory I had. I had like three hosts. I had Michael Kemmer, Paul Glenn, and Cass Wilkie were my hosts, and
Nice.
they were awesome. We had a good time. We ate a lot. I remember going to breakfast, lunch, and dinner. which is good. It was cool, and then that, and then they'll show me the nightlife at night. My host, so it was a good visit. After the visit, I didn't sign there. I didn't do anything there yet. I didn't. So I went home after that. At the time, I was already back in Florida because I left Edinburgh and I didn't go back. So
Okay.
I was ready. I flew back home, and then a few weeks later, maybe a month later, Tom and Morningstar flew down to come see me, and they see me to get me to sign pretty much,
Yeah.
and whatever we met, and then from there I flew back with them to Iowa, and
So you made no other visits. You visited Iowa, and that, man.
yeah, well,
You
then,
are a loyalty dude. I'll give you that. You are a loyalty dude. Yeah. Hell yeah. Okay.
but yeah, so I mean at the time too, like these other universities kind of like lost their interest in me, like because I was speaking with Oklahoma State, I was speaking with Penn State, but they kind of went with their own guy. Um,
Sure.
I think the reason why Iowa wanted me was because I wrestled Sorensen the year before, and
Mm-hmm.
Sorensen had one more year left to graduate, and I had a redshirt year left too because I didn't redshirt at Edinburgh, so
That's right. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
made perfect sense. And I was like, let's do it, man. Like,
Yeah.
I hate traveling too again, so I was like, all right, let's do it. So I just flew back with them. I remember going back with them, and it was already like time for their summer camp schedule. So I went right into summer training with them, and to get me ready for my redshirt year, and the rest is history.
I like to think that Terry was calling all the other coaches and telling them, back off. We got them. Otherwise, I'm going to come and find you and take your legs out.
Yeah, which is funny. I had a visit scheduled to Iowa State, and
Yeah.
I didn't go to it. I mean, I had two visits scheduled to Iowa State, and I didn't go to both of them. One was I was in high school, and one when I was transferring.
Well, you really screwed the pooch on that one, right? You kind of
But
no,
which was
no shows.
yeah, it wasn't that bad because the coaches
Yeah.
changed, you know.
Yep. Yep.
So
That
like,
dresser.
yeah, dresser.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's awesome. Said 2 visits. I didn't even go to those. I was just like, whatever. That's cool. Well,
exactly.
you seem pretty. You seem like you know what you want. Like when
Yeah,
something is presented to you, if it appeals to you, you'll stick with that. Like, but
yeah,
if they're like you said in that meeting, you were kind of quiet. You're kind of sitting over in the corner a little bit and just kind of reading the room more. But I think it's hard to just read the room with the Brands brothers around because they find a way to get you to be who you are somehow, some way. It seems like it doesn't. I'm sure other coaches have great qualities, but I've watched these guys forever since they were like in high school. So it's just kind of knowing how these guys operate. I'm not surprised that one of them was sitting at the bar and like turns around and says something like, "Holy shit, what the hell's going on here?" So you're sold. You're sold with Iowa. We were sold when you got there. I noticed the tattoos and I'm like, holy shit, this guy really likes tattoos, man. He's got them like all over himself.
yeah.
And I know you were asked about these tattoos a couple times, but it seemed like it was pretty simple for you. You had something set up that you liked, and your dad was like, "Yeah, go get them." And you were gonna do a whole sleeve, and you wound up doing like half your body.
Yeah, I mean, well, I didn't start this other tattoos I have until like I graduated high school. I mean, graduated college.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, I saw a couple other ones. I'm like, man, he's got them all over, dude. I thought it was just on the one side, but is there a little story behind the type of tattoo that you have?
So the first one that you probably seen first, yeah, I mean, it was kind of like my sophomore year of high school. I told my dad I wanted a tattoo, and he said if you win Fargo, you get a tattoo. So I didn't win
Good
Fargo,
deal.
but I got second that year. So he's like, all right, go get the tattoo, and then I got the tattoo, and it was my whole sleeve and my chest, and then me, my dad, and my little brother all did it at kind of like at the same time,
Okay.
so we kind of have the same tattoo, and then the tattoos you see now is like something that I wanted more like after I graduated college, and now I got my left leg is sleeved up, and my right,
Yeah, it is.
yeah, my whole chest is tatted, and my both sleeves and my arms are tatted.
Jeez,
So
man.
it's
Couple hours.
yeah, a few hours. But it was I think I had this conversation with someone that like literally like yesterday, 2 days ago. He's like, I just love the feeling of tattoos. That's what he said. It was Nelson Brands, and
Loves the feeling of tattoo, like getting a tattoo.
yes, yes,
Freak. freak.
I know. And then when he said that, I was like, bro, I know exactly what you mean. And it's not
So
even the tattoo itself, it's just the feeling of it. It's like I don't know how to explain it. It's like, man, you feel this pain, but you feeling the pain and fighting the pain is like a great feeling, especially like afterwards, like when the pain's over, it's like I just went through that, it's like
yeah,
that
look
feels
at that.
good, like
So I got a tattoo on my arm, and so I have a problem with needles, right?
mhm.
Like I pass out. So if I get a shot, I'm gonna fall to the floor. So I got a tattoo on my arm. I'm like, it's a tattoo. It's not like getting a shot. I passed out getting the tattoo on my arm, right?
Uh,
So years later, I said because 920 tattoo company they sponsor the show, and I was like, I'm Irish, so I
yeah,
wanted a Celtic cross on my back, right?
nice.
I told my wife I'm doing it. She goes, "Yeah, but you're gonna pass." I was like, "I think it might be different. I think it's because I can see it, and
Yeah.
back here I can't see it." When you're describing that feeling of like fighting through it, so like when they're going over my spine, it reminded me of someone with a hammer
Oh,
and like it just real fast over your bone kind of thing. So
mhm.
I sat there taking that. I was like, "How can I take this?" But I couldn't do that, and I got my whole back covered, like the whole scenery back there. But it,
Nice.
it kind of the way you described it is just that feeling of getting through that is the best feeling. You're like, yeah, man, I did that shit. This is awesome. So
Yeah.
that's cool. That's cool. And it's even cooler that you did that with your dad and your brother. It's kind of it's a bonding thing, even though you didn't win Fargo and your dad. I'm gonna say it because I'm in Wisconsin. He's in Florida. Your dad kind of wussed out on it and said, okay, you can get a tattoo. Don't tell Patricia, please don't beat me up. Swear to God, you'd probably kill me. But okay, so you get to Iowa, and we obviously know you had some really, really good success. But let's talk about that. What was that? What was that like going from Edinburgh to that? Was that a big change for you?
Yes, 100%. I think I took a mental step back when I first got to Iowa. And I think I was kind of like figuring out who I was at the time and how I wanted my wrestling to be because I thought, oh, I have to be like, these guys to
Mhm.
be here. And that was not the case at all. I was in my head. Uh they said, your style is Iowa style, whatever. Lugo style is Iowa style, his style, whatever.
Mhm.
So I kind of like I would say my confidence wasn't as high as it was like in the past my first year competing for Iowa. I put a lot of pressure on myself. The standard was higher standard. The fans, like
Oof.
everything just kind of waited on me, and I was just like, I wasn't really expecting, that weight because I was like, I didn't feel that at Edinburgh, and the I guess the atmosphere in the room, was kind of like, you know, whatever. So like
Yeah.
that changed completely my senior year. I think because when I go into a situation and I don't know what to be aware of, I kind of like lack a little bit. But once I'm aware of what's gonna happen or how this workout is gonna be, how the structure of it, I can work
You
out
do it.
harder. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like how it was my senior year. Like I already knew like what the run's gonna be or whatever, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah.
So you got a pretty slick win, going against Sasso. That was to me that was probably, and I know you took a loss against him, but just
Mhm.
seeing the win coming back from that, we noticed the difference just in you in general, just the wrestling that you had, and you could even tell because the way you kind of carry yourself, you almost talk to yourself when you're on the mat, where things were a little tense and really close match. You're like just
Yeah.
kind of breathing it out, and you can tell yourself you're bringing yourself down a little bit. And you can see it on the mat, which is awesome because I mean to be able to keep that composure in a tight situation against a dude that's that good, that's impressive, right? So let's talk about your first your Big Ten. Like you win in the Big Tens. That's pretty big when you're talking about the conference that you're in. I mean, NCAAs are tough, but Big Tens. I mean, some guys are saying that the Big Ten tournament can be as tough as the NCAAs. But how was that? That was a goal, probably, obviously, that you had set. I'm going to win this. What was that like, kind of going through that tournament? That's a heavy hitter.
Yeah. So my first Big Ten tournament was my junior year. I got third.
Mhm.
And it was a good tournament. I lost Brady Berge from Penn State,
Penn State. Yep. Yep.
and then I lost him second round. Ended up getting third that year. But yeah, good tournament, a lot of tough wrestlers, and
Yeah.
it's like yeah, that composure that I have to like keep myself in. It's like the wrestling match inside the wrestling match. The battle inside the battle. It's like you can't let yourself be your biggest enemy. If that makes sense. And it's like you gotta stay composed. You gotta stay relaxed, but be explosive at the same time, and be aware. And not be too anxious. A lot of things go into it. And that's what makes this sport so hard. So unique. It's
Yeah.
not like you can have a bad day and have someone help you out, like in a football team or something. You gotta be on it.
Mm.
Uh, and it's an awesome experience once you can figure it out and you can keep it there.
So we'll wrap up the college, but I want to ask a couple things about the Brands brothers in general.
Okay.
So there's lots of instances, no secrets, but just it's probably like some funny stuff. Like we talk about, we had Dan Dennis here. I brought him in for a camp one time, and obviously in his Flow documentary, he talks about, he goes, I give anything to know when practice is going to end, right? And Tom or whatever was like, yeah, anything, chop your arm off, kind of thing. Like, what are some of the crazy things? Like, are they? I think they were a little more intense than they are now. Like, do you think that they may do they tell stories? Like, I remember back when we first started coaching, we made guys do this. Do you kind of notice like a little bit of a I don't know, a calm down? Not necessarily that the room calms down, but those guys have a better feel for what the room can be like and what it needs to be like, instead of just a smash and grab, because everybody thinks that Iowa is just nonstop, just killing each other. And obviously you guys wrestle hard and practice hard, but who doesn't, right? What are some of the differences between like what you think the Iowa room offers, but besides like another room offers?
I think the word that jumps in my head right now is just passion.
Okay.
Passion. A lot of people say it's intense, but I think it's just passion. It's like a lot of it just coming from the love of the sport that these coaches have, that they love you so much they're gonna tell you what you need to hear,
Mm,
right? They don't beat around the bush. And again, it reminded me of like how I was raised. That's exactly how my father raised me.
yeah.
So I think I clicked well with it. You gotta have thick skin, especially in life. I mean, this is how the world is, and they tell you that you gotta have thick skin. And you can't feel like it's personal, because it's not.
Right.
They want what's best for you. They want what's best for the team, the program, and that's what they tell us every single day. And they don't
Good.
only tell us; they show it with their actions.
Good.
And
Good.
one thing I can remember. I guess you call it intense. Was like we're running outside during preseason, and it
Mhm.
was wet. So the mud got like all over our shoes, whatever.
Oh yeah. Slippery. Yeah. Yep.
So when we came inside, there was like right by the door of the wrestling room. There was a bunch of mud because guys would hit their feet and whatever. There's a bunch of mud inside, all over the carpet. We just finished our long run. We did a bunch of hills. Everyone's cooling down. I'm doing my extra right at the end with Morningstar, and then next thing you know, you hear Terry come in, and he's just telling everybody what they need to hear, because what we did was wrong. We made a bunch of mess, and he's calling us you know stuff that is true. And so he made us do the whole workout again. And it was like, oh man, it's like we just finished. But it
That
was,
sounds right.
I mean, it's like some people would say, well, you're being too harsh. No, like, no,
No,
we're the ones that made the mistake. He's fixing the mistake, and at the end of the day, he's only helping us. And
he's
that's
teaching you. Yeah, he's teaching you. And I think a lot of guys. So we've had some kids that from around here. They take their visits, and we've heard stories that it wasn't even bad stories about the Brands brothers. Just that they're like you were saying, it fit your style. It was what you kind of grew up with, so it felt right, right. So it felt natural. A lot of these kids don't. And I'll be honest with you, the Askren room is not like a Brands room. It's way more relaxed. It's like a Penn State room where it's, hey, let's play dodgeball. But then, they still focus. It's not like they don't do anything, but I can imagine it being a little different. So kids going into a room like that, if they aren't exposed to it and it's not something that they like, but that they're used to, they're not going to take to it. Where kids like that. There's certain kids that like that grind. You know, they like to have that push and that fight, and they want their coach to have it. And those coaches then have it not only in the room, but then in your corner. You know, like you said, they do it in every aspect. It's not just when they're mad about what's going on at practice. They're fighting for every inch for you on that mat too at the same time. And I think that's important. I think obviously Kale does the same thing for his athletes. It's not like he's a screamer, but he's definitely fighting for his guys. So so college was, we had a great time watching you, man. I mean, every time we go down to Iowa, hanging out with the Cassiopes and just watching wrestling, like we made sure that we watched your match for sure. There's no bathroom breaks. There's no getting hot dogs or dipping dots or none of that shit. We were making sure we're sitting down for a Lugo match.
Awesome.
So now you got that end of life is done. We know you're at the Hawkeye Wrestling Club. You're getting ready for the Olympic trials, right? I think you're going to be heading down for that, correct?
So no, I'm actually done wrestling now.
You're done. You're done. Oh man.
Yeah.
Fucking might as well hang it up and not even watch wrestling anymore, dude. Seriously. Okay, but you have another venture though. You have something that you're putting your time and energy into. So what is that you're putting your time and energy into now?
So I'm starting my own wrestling club up back in my hometown, Miami, Florida, and I'm calling it the Miami Hawks.
Nice.
Yeah, I had my first event this summer, June 6th through 9th. It's a wrestling camp and tournament, and it's open to all. So I'm very excited about that.
Okay, so what sparked this? Was it because you want to give back kind of thing? It's a kind of the usual thing, but obviously you guys are coming from an area that doesn't have a ton of wrestling still. It's getting better. It's getting more and more kids now, but are you in an area that kind of needs that growth?
I think it definitely needs the growth. A lot of there's not a lot of universities, D1 universities of wrestling in Florida, and there's not a lot of guys who come back and give back, because there's not a lot of athletes from Florida that go to D1. Right. So I think what started this was just I feel like it's just I'm ready for this next chapter, in my life. I love wrestling. I love what it done for me. I just want to share my journey, share my experience with, the future generation. And
awesome.
I can help a lot of, little kids grow. Someone who doesn't make the football team or basketball team, whatever, you'll come try wrestling,
Come on over.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I think, and I can, be closer to my family. I haven't been with my family for the past 8 years. And, I think it's time to reunite with them, So I think it's gonna be a good, transition.
Cool. That's cool. Well, we're excited. I know we shared it. We'll share it some more. There's a flyer out, everybody, that we've put out on our social media. Lugo's got the Miami Hawks Wrestling Clubs on social media. He's got it on Facebook. He's got it on Instagram. Twitter, not so much, but I know that he's out there kind of looking at stuff. But look for it out on Instagram and Facebook. Are you on TikTok?
No, I'm on. I have them set up, but I don't post them on there because it's a lot. So
yeah, it is, man.
Yes and no.
it's a ton. He's just doing this alone, trying to get stuff out there. So
technology, man. It's
yeah, it's nuts. I should have taken a technology course at some point, but I didn't. I'm just kind of learning on the fly. So but everybody take a look at that. If you guys are down, anybody's down in the southern area, I don't care if you're in Georgia, I don't care if you're in North Carolina, head down and go check out this event. June 6th and 7th, you said?
Yes, June 6th.
Okay. Through 9th. Okay. So that's a camp and a tournament. I mean, I'm pretty sure the camp's going to be well worth the time if the tournament isn't going to be something you want to do. Get down and do the camp, but do both of them. Seriously, do both. So everybody, he's got to get to a practice. We're going to kind of talk to him for a quick second when we're done here. But we've been joined by the Hawkeye Wrestling Club and the former Hawkeye, Pat Lugo, two-time All-American Big Ten champ, man. It's been great having you on, and I hope we can get you back on as your venture kind of goes along in the path that I'm sure it will. I'm sure it'll be pretty successful. So, Pat, much appreciated. Everybody, I hope you appreciate the episode. Take a listen. It'll be downloaded the next day or so. Put some clips out so that way you guys get peak some interest if you didn't watch it. But everybody, we're out. Gonna talk to you in a second here, Pat. All right, man. Peace.
Thanks.